broke. Take off your shades, it helps see through the smoke. Cause the wicked hide behind the cloak. And if you stay in the mist, you gon' be soaked. So listen up, cause this hair of the dog. What's real, what ain't? Is this the fog or smog? Cause there's a difference when you breathe it in. So don't let the corporate media take you for a spin. This that morning show, they put you in the know. So I hope that you ready, cause all we do is go, go, go. Yeah, come get your info, you gon' be like, whoa. Hair of the dog, we bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah. Spitting the facts.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hair of the Dog. I'm Andy Kennedy. It is a beautiful Wednesday morning here in the Great White North, which has followed a lovely 6-inch snowfall that I now get to get up close and personal with in my driveway with my snowblower as soon as the show's done. You know, getting close to nature while icicles hang off your hair is always considered fun. We are in for a treat today. We have a sort of a Trump administration best of list, I would call it today. We are going to be looking at the Trump administration, some of the major players, and as we like to call a where are they now type situation. So that's always going to be fun because they were certainly interesting while they were in the Trump administration. And so we're going to find out if they're equally interesting afterwards. So, but I think I should probably introduce my co-host first. I think that's probably a good idea. So, Miss Carrie Barber, how are you this morning?
I am good. I'm exhausted. I'm tired, but so much happened overnight that just, look, a little bit of Schadenfreude is good for the soul. And there was so much of that happening. Just so
it's a Billy Crystal, you feel like shit, but you look marvelous.
Exactly. And that's really all that matters. So, I want to get started with, a tissue for Marsha Blackburn, who is crying about the executive orders going out. And she was totally fine with the 290 executive orders from the prior administration, who shall not be named, in 4 years, as compared to prior administrations that were like 200 and something over 8 years. So to Marsha, girl, come on now. So one of the executive orders that came out that I was surprised and delighted to see, and it's one of those where you've gotta praise the good work that's done. We don't ignore the bad, but the good work. And this was President Biden, which is getting used to saying that, President Biden put out an executive order saying that they will no longer use private for-profit prisons in the federal system. So, wow, that's a big deal. Andy, you and I were talking about it a little bit yesterday. What did you say? Who were you extending a tissue for?
Oh, the Congresswoman in Florida, what did I call her? Debbie Awfulman Schill?
Yes, Debbie Wasserman, who right now is probably crying because her stocks are tanking in the for-profit prison industry. So, poor thing. But speaking of stocks, this was super cool. So shout out to Reddit and everybody who is doing the damn thing on Reddit. If you saw the headlines, this was amazing. And I think that this has huge sweeping implications for Wall Street, who this morning is shuddering a little bit. This was like a shot across the bow. And I think that the folks on Reddit figured something spectacular out. So in Wall Street, let's be honest, that the stock market is nothing more than a casino. You're not really investing in anything. You're risking your money, just like you would at a roulette wheel. but we like to pretend that it's high finance. It's really not. So what happened was you had a bunch of these short sellers who make their money off of propping up a stock and then selling it short and then watching it tank, right? So they tried to do this with GameStop. GameStop, you know, they love it or hate it, it's been kind of a thing in the mall, and you know, they'll give you 50 cents for your last PlayStation, whatever. There's all sorts of jokes and memes about it, but it's kind of a staple for the regular unwashed masses like us. So when they tried to short sell GameStop, Reddit jumped in and bought it. So they were buying it for like pennies on the dollar. I don't remember what the exact price was, the floor that they were buying it for, but that stock has now jumped phenomenally. And what is extra cool about all of this is if you have a Robinhood account or one of those small investing tools, like I have a Robinhood account and I use it to invest like $1 here, $1 there. And I have personally watched my account grow because of the shit show that went on over the last few years. So what happened with GameStop was, when you signed up for an account on Robinhood or other platforms, they were giving away stocks, some of these undervalued penny stocks. And a lot of people for years were getting GameStop. So what happened when it rallied, when all of these folks from Reddit and around the country and in China started purchasing the stock, the value went up. So as of this morning, there were people who got GameStop stock for free who are now sitting on $300, $600, $1,200 in their account because of this rally. And I was reading the Wall Street Journal this morning, and these short sellers, the $1 million short sellers, are literally crying this morning because they lost all of their value. And Redditors, being Redditors and are super snarky, are sending them pizza and laughing at them. Some are being going a little over the top with threats and whatnot, but most of them are just like, ha ha. So it's kind
Sure.
of funny.
And if you have an old gaming console, you might want to consider sending that to one of these short sellers as well.
Right, give them something else to do because they went bust on this particular stock. And for me, as I look at this, I'm like, there's something to this, because even in the Wall Street Journal article, they're looking at, now, of course, the oligarchs are pissed. The slobbering masses should not be taking over a Wall Street bedrock like short selling stocks. So what they're doing is looking at, well, is this illegal? And what they're finding is no, because all the Reddit people, all they said was, hey, I'm going to buy the stock. They have no material interest in the company. They don't have inside information. Remember all those people who went to jail or should have gone to jail?
In 2008.
Well, not just 2008. We're looking at all the members of Congress who had inside information before everyone else and sold stock or bought up stock. Yeah.
Just before the pandemic hit.
Right.
Yes.
And the ethics review said they did nothing wrong. So how can you possibly go after just an average person who's posting on Reddit saying, hey, I'm going to buy this stock? Right.
Isn't that hilarious? Isn't that hilarious? All of the corruption and bullshit that goes on in the business community, right? In the housing market in 2008, where nobody went to jail, and all of these people have been just profiting off a corrupt system, and all of the money that was sent to large corporations, right? And the CEOs did stock buybacks, which is actually illegal, but nobody's getting in trouble for it. You get a group of everyday common folks that actually found a way to cash in a little bit, and it's illegal.
Right.
Fucking assholes.
That's what makes it so hilarious. So just real quick, for those of you, for our tens of viewers who are up with us this morning, thank you for being here. As always, we are live and interactive. So good morning to Dave, who's watching us on YouTube. We appreciate you being here. So if you wouldn't mind, if you have a comment or critique or anything like that, and you want to push back, put it in the comments section. We'll read it. And we want you to be part of this conversation. Also, if you could like and share it, that would be great, because as we know, and this is a show for Friday, we're going to talk a little bit more about technology and censorship. I'm putting out an invitation to Representative Howley. Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Howley. See if he wants to join us and talk about censorship. We'll see if that actually happens. But yeah, for today, let's get serious. Let's get serious for a second here, because apparently it has come to my attention that I need to make a formal apology to everybody. Because I'm an American, and Minority Leader McCarthy put out a statement that was carried by Yahoo saying that I am responsible in part for what happened on January 6th with sedition and the failed coup. In fact, he said that all Americans are responsible for what happened. Not just the people who actually scaled the walls and tried to kill people, not just, the people who broke into the Capitol and stole things and actually left excrement in the Capitol, which was, okay.
That's really shitty.
Thank you, Andy. So it wasn't their fault. It was my fault. So my apologies to everyone for sitting at home minding my own damn business while other people tried to sack the Capitol.
Do you feel shame?
I don't. And I feel shame because I don't feel shame, if that makes any sense. But
don't try to confuse me.
Right. So I'm not really sure where he's coming from, except that as of today, and I don't have the calendar in front of me, I don't even know what the day is, but we have 147 seditionists sitting in the Capitol building right now. These are people that plotted against our government, incited violence, sought to kill their colleagues. I don't know I've worked with people who don't like me, just fundamentally don't like me for either a good reason or superficial. But I've never worked with somebody sitting next to me who actively tried to kill me. So I can't imagine what that's like. But those people are sitting in Congress today, nothing's happening to them, right? And I'm supposed to feel unity with them. Can you imagine what that must be like? This person actually had a mob try to come and kill me, and I got to be professional? No. Look, I'm not advocating violence. I never advocate violence. But if you come after me and mine, I can't be nice and professional. I'm certainly not going to unity. You're never going to hear that from me. So.
And on top of that, they're all sitting in the Congress or the Senate or wherever they're sitting, mad because they had to leave their guns outside.
Right. So, which is a weird thing as it is, right? In DC, they have very strict gun laws, but in the Capitol, it's a little bit different. And even when they put in metal detectors, like if you go to your county board meeting, you can't bring your firearm with you. And the same thing was true with Congress, but they knew that some of their colleagues had firearms in their offices outside of the Capitol. So for those who aren't aware, you have the Capitol building, and then there are tunnels. And on the left and right side of the Capitol building are big office buildings. Like one of them is the Hart building, HEART. And that's where the representatives have their offices. So they would just go from that, either walking through the tunnels or above ground or whatever, and go to the Capitol. You're not supposed to bring your firearm with you, but they were doing it. And why?
Apparently, Lauren Boebert, they asked her, why are you bringing a pistol into work. And she said, well, because I couldn't find a holster for an AR-15.
I don't think, do they make holsters for that? I
Which,
mean,
there you go.
right. Right. And I'll admit, I've been looking at holsters myself because I'm in.
Of course you have.
They're really pretty. They're really pretty. They're leather tooled and because I'm in an open carry state, you can't have concealed carry, but I'm in an open carry state and I'm going to be out where there are lots of bears and things. So it seems like a good idea for personal protection because while I am a badass, I am not taking on a bear. So yeah. But Congress is something different, right? Those people are literally trying to kill each other. So I don't know. So that was the headline from Yahoo, which I posted in the chat as well. And so, yeah, those were the major headlines that came over last night. So some of the other ones we'll get to in this, Where Are They Now? And in my head, this is like the high school yearbook, but these people, some of them just left. So we don't have enough age on them. Some of them have aged 30 years.
I would push back and say that time is irrelevant right now.
It really is. Isn't it weird? I mean, so we've transitioned to a new administration, but it still feels like nothing is real and everything is expanded. So that's kind of it's an odd place to be. So, oh, okay. You're getting comments for your humor, not me, just you, Andy, in the chat. So thanks for that.
Don't be bitter, Carrie. Don't be bitter.
A little bit. I am a little bit, but it's whatever. You're better at it than I am. So, all right.
That's all I got at this point.
There's more, Andy. There's more. Wait till you hear some of this stuff. So I am not going to dictate the order that these go in. You put up an image, and since I can't see it, you're gonna have to tell me which one you put up.
Okay. All right. So let's start with everybody's favorite general, General Mattis.
Oh, General Mattis. Okay. A highly respected Marine Corps general. And when he was appointed into the Trump administration, he served as the 26th Secretary of the Defense, and he served from 2017 to 2019. So you remember we had other military leaders that were since indicted. So when General Mattis was put in, and it was like, this is a guy of integrity. So go back to your high school days when we learned about Shakespeare's Mark Antony. He was your Mark Antony character. And he actually played this role exactly like the Shakespearean character Mark Antony. He was so focused on integrity that he actually failed in his duty because of that. And that is purely my opinion, but let me explain why I say that. So General Mattis is now on a book tour. He's written quite a few books. One was a tell-all as soon as he left, and it was out quick, but that seems to be the thing. If you serve in an administration, you make some money by doing a book tour. So he's on another one here, and this one's about leadership. It's called Call Sign Chaos. I haven't read it, but I understand it's pretty good. It's what I might actually read. But here is my problem. So Vanity Fair did an expose on James Mattis because of this book. They wanted to talk to him about it. And they asked him really poignant questions because now we can see what Trump was up to all along. And even the Q people are like, we were screwed. So hindsight being 2020, they went and talked to General Mattis and they asked him, like, look, you were there as a man of integrity, as a person with military training, and you really didn't do much. You didn't do much to stop this. You saw that he was a threat, but you didn't do anything. And General Mattis's response to this was, we don't talk about leadership because it would damage and threaten the country more, right? So not necessarily Trump itself, but he's calling back to his military training and the culture of not calling out leadership. You go along to get along, right? And on the surface, that sounds good. Like, if you work for a company, you don't call out the CEO, you provide suggestions and maybe gentle pushback, even if that CEO is trying to run the company into the ground. So this was the case. So he was falling back on this military training. And if you saw the interview that Brandon did with Tim Bakken, the whistleblower, on all of this military culture bullshit here, this is the exact same argument we saw at The Hague after World War II, when people were saying I was just following orders. That is the same thing as saying I was following the chain of command and respect for the officer above me. And so General Mattis did the same thing. So rather than stepping up and saying, hey, this is wrong, he quietly resigned and then wouldn't say anything, or hardly anything, to warn the American public. So this is my pushback on General James Mattis, a man of integrity. I think he went with the just following orders when he should have done something more. And this is where I'm keenly interested on his book on leadership, because to me, that's not leadership. Leadership is, again, referencing Shakespeare, when others fall and you're standing alone, that's leadership. If they are not able to step up in a way that meets integrity and doing the right thing, and you're by yourself, that is leadership. Going along to get along, not so much. So
Right. And it's the whole pushback about the military and how, from the very first time people join the military and have to go through basic training, right? You are taught to be subservient. You are told, it is pounded into your head that you obey all orders and you don't necessarily think for yourself. Well, unless you're the president of the United States, you always serve someone in the military, all the way up to the very top generals like General Mattis, right? So that's I think that's evident in most of them, and it's always kind of there's always a precedent set with when they choose like the Secretary of Defense and so on, and for positions like that are always generals or admirals that are put into those positions, right? And ultimately the reason why is because they were trained in the military, right? So I think that's pretty evident.
So I think we do need to make a distinction between military leadership and leadership as most people understand it. It's a little bit different. And there will be times in a leadership role where you are standing by yourself, right? So it's scary. And I could see in General Mattis's position, now I can't speak for him other than, his response, but you're looking at self-preservation at that point. And that's the thing that usually holds people back. Like, if I say this thing, how is it going to affect me, my family, my income, my job, my prospects going forward? And leadership is you stand up anyway. And it's not always what you say, but how you say it that matters. So
right. And it's a very interesting dynamic for him, it being put in a situation where you're serving a president that obviously is a corruptible or corrupted real estate guy, snake oil salesman, whatever you want to call him, who has his own personal agenda that trumps, excuse the expression, trumps everything else, right? So as someone who, if you're General Mattis, and I'm not making any judgments about who he was as a person and his own belief system, right? But how do you weigh what you feel is right or wrong against how to serve a president who clearly is only in it for himself, right? So it's a no-win job, and the guy actually stayed on for a lot longer than people thought he would, and actually stayed on for a lot longer than most of the Trump administration people did. So
Yeah, yeah, he did. And prepping for this particular segment, I looked at turnover ratios for administrations because it's natural, right? When you have the incoming administration, and these are pretty demanding jobs when it comes to Secretary of State and somebody serving in the cabinet. So the burnout is really high because you could be at work 23 hours a day for a 2 or 3 day stretch, and you still have to run a major organization and work through all of those things. So burnout's pretty high. But when I was looking at the comparison going back from Reagan all the way up to the current administration, Trump administration had a 90% turnover ratio before November, which is really high. So there were a whole lot of people leaving. I think part of that is due to Trump reliving his teeny days of "you're fired," right? So
I think that Trump administration PTSD is an actual thing.
oh, it's got to be. Yeah, absolutely. But look, all right. So I'm going to cut him a little bit of slack, but you really have to be a shitty person. You really do to step up and say, even if somebody offers you this job, how many people turned it down and went, no, I'm not working with that fruitcake. No way. No.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that if you consider yourself to be someone that has a fairly high set of morals, that another reason why you might take a job like that is because of the potential dangers of decision-making process that Trump would go through, and you might consider yourself to be an adequate buffer to try to protect people from dangerous decisions as well. So,
right.
There's that.
Okay, so good morning, John, who is being equally snarky, and thank you, we love it. John says, there's no win jobs in politics. Interesting. Yeah, okay, you got a point.
Yes, well, tell that to, $200 million bank account Nancy Pelosi.
Right? She's winning big time.
Yes.
All right.
She's winning ice cream, all kinds of stuff.
Lots of what? Yeah. Okay.
All right. So if we moved on from General Mattis, are we ready for our next contestant?
Yeah. Who's next?
All right. So our next contestant is everybody's favorite white nationalist and resident chud. Mr.
Bannon. Okay. So this woman, I hope Dave appreciates the new graphics, because Dave, these were all for you. So this picture had me cracking up for hours because I did not alter the cropping on this photo at all. And whoever did was kudos, beautifully snarky in the composition of this particular piece. Because, okay, Dave says the graphics are good. Great, thank you. So with this particular composition, you have Steve Bannon in the bottom, looking like Smeagol above this ginormous background. He looks tiny. And just the look on his face, it cracks me up, because this picture is truly worth 1,000 words. It tells you everything you need to know about Steve Bannon. So, I'll do
the voice. My precious.
There you go. That's good. So yeah, that is totally Steve Bannon. So Steve Bannon came in Breitbart. He is, he's like the worst of the worst. And he was real big into the Trump administration. He's the PR guy, right? So he came in and they were going to do all sorts of things. So one that I could not find here was Steve Smith. That he truly looks like a golem. So Steve and Bannon were together all about, with Neil Gorsuch too, that shit show. They were the first ones to welcome the actual Nazi Party members from Austria into the White House. And I remember freaking out because it was like February. in the brand new administration, and I'm like screaming and pointing, going, "Do you see it? Do you see it?" And even corporate media didn't really cover it. Nobody blinked, and I'm like, "Oh, there it is." So this is Steve Bannon. So Steve Bannon, who is now the pardoned Steve Bannon, for this delightful, yet it's tragic for some people because they were so duped. The wall, right? Mexico's going to pay for the wall. And then it went from Mexico's going to pay for it to we're going to finance it through federal appropriations. And then it went to we're going to take money out of the VA and other programs that you rely on to pay for the wall. And then it went to we're going to shut things down if I don't get more money for the wall. And then finally, the fundraiser from actual Trump supporters who can.
Reconnection successful. Okay. All right. We're back in. I'm not sure what happened there, Carrie. Okay. All right. So we are still streaming, I believe. If you want to just wait a couple of seconds and make sure it updates on the. Are you monitoring?
Yeah, I am, and it looks like it's going through. So, hey, Mike, if you can still see the stream, send me a chat. Here's, post it in the chat.
I have no idea why that happened.
Well, Facebook was acting a little funny this morning. Technical difficulties beyond our control. That's for sure. Oh, Mike says we're back. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right. All right.
Woo! Yeah, because this is such vital content that you'll need for your day.
Yeah, that was odd. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, that's the first time that's ever happened. So okay, so it's the karma gods apparently still like Steve Bannon, and he's a wily one. So
or maybe he has a longer reach than we originally anticipated.
I'm telling you. Okay, so let's go into the next one. Who else do we have?
All right. So the next one is ex-Trump advisor and potential mother of the year.
This one,
Kellyanne Conway.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so all right. So anybody who knows what happened, I still cannot figure out, is this real or was this a PR stunt? I'm not sure. So here's kind of how it went down. The alerts went out that Kellyanne Conway from her personal Twitter account posted an image. It was a considered pornographic image, a topless image of her own daughter, right? So her daughter is underage. So not only do you have a pornographic image, but child pornography. And it was on her account for just a little while. And people were, obviously screen capturing this, like, what the hell? And of course it got deleted. So,
well, apparently Facebook has introduced a new app that apparently is very reminiscent of Instagram, where you can post something and it only stays on for a certain while and then it deletes, it disappears.
Yeah, right? That's a Twitter thing. So it's a new thing that Twitter, like Snapchat, because everybody was trying to compete with Snapchat for whatever reason. So this is a new one. It's a Flash or something. Anyway.
Yeah, something like that. But it was posted on one of the platforms, and then after a certain time, it just disappeared. Right, but not before people grabbed it.
Yeah, they sure did. And just a reminder, because apparently we didn't learn our lesson from the QAnon and the Parler folks. Anything that you put on the internet, even if Snapchat says it's deleted, it's there forever, right? You have sent the digital packets, they have been received, it's there. So same thing happened with Kellyanne Conway. So people were like, what the shit? And then her daughter, Claudia, started posting videos that looked genuine. I'll admit, I thought it was genuine when I first saw her in this panicked state, and confirming that that was a photo of her topless, and her mother took it from her phone. And then later on, you had this FaceTime phone call where she was FaceTiming with a friend of hers, presumably, or it was presented that she wanted backup and the feeling that she wasn't alone, right? So whether it was safety concern or whatever else. And in this FaceTime phone call, Kellyanne admitted to posting it, and then as a sideline said, well, maybe my phone was hacked. Yeah, no, really? So if why is it always, oh, my phone was hacked, right? So start using that as a blanket excuse for everything. Why were you late? Oh, I got hacked.
Right.
Why is your account overdrawn? Oh, I got hacked. Whatever it is, I got hacked.
Sure.
Because apparently that works for politicians who get caught in bad behavior. So as this whole saga played out on Twitter, you saw that people had literally called the authorities, and a police officer was there, and you could hear the exchange going on between Claudia and her mother, and then the police officer noted that Claudia's phone was FaceTiming and hung up the phone, right? So here's the issue now. Twitter is investigating the allegations of child pornography. That's a felony. Even if you did it in revenge, even if you were hacked, that's a felony. So we're still going to see where this comes out, but based on what we've seen before, and Kellyanne's own words, this is not a healthy dynamic, right? And Claudia herself hired a lawyer trying to emancipate herself and get away from her family. And let's remember that her dad was head of the Lincoln Project, which was also another tremendous grift effort, because love it or hate it, their ads were very good, but it didn't translate into votes, right? And that was the whole point of it. So if their mission was to make some awesome ads, then yeah, they achieved it, but that was not their stated mission. Their mission was to make sure that they were pulling Republican votes over to Biden. Well, when they started, they didn't know who the nominee was, I guess. So the whole family is a fucking shit show. And this is why Republicans can never again claim moral high ground. Not saying that the neoliberals can either, but you cannot forward this argument. And for me, I am a religious person. I get to watch all of these people claim some sort of Christian affiliation. I don't know what their faith is, but they claim it to be Christian. And as far as I understood, lying is still a sin, I think, unless I missed a memo somewhere.
I would push back on that for the four previous years.
Well, it's supposed, okay, so this is where the question comes up. Does a political administration get to decide what is a sin or not? And I'm not sure, because I don't know what faith they claim to. They say it's some sort of Christian thing. But everything that I'm aware of in the Christian faith, lying is a sin. Omission of truth is a lie, and that also is a sin. So,
well, I think that that has a lot to along the same lines of, if you commit a crime, it's not a crime unless you get caught, right? So if you tell a lie, it's not really a lie until it's proven that it's a lie.
Right. And in all things, since we here fight for due process, you got to kind of wait on this and see what happens. But we have the screenshots that this actually happened. So the question becomes, did she actually post it or did she not? Was the phone ever out of her possession? Was she ever actually hacked? Okay, so Mike says, if the phone was hacked to post the image, she still had the image on her phone. Okay, Mike. And Mike says, it's still child support, it's still child porn, still soon to be a registered sex offender. So, Mike, I think you got it there. I I'm inclined to agree with you. Why was she walking around with this photo on her phone? That's weird, right? That alone is weird. That it at the very least, that is indicative of the heinous nature of this person. Why were you keeping that? What was that about, right? Most parents I know, if you find something like your teenager sexting with someone else and you find these images, you don't save the image. You sit them down and have a conversation in whatever way your parenting style takes. But you don't save a copy of that image. You just don't. So yeah, Mike, I'm inclined to agree with you. She was carrying around and in possession of child pornography. So let's see what happens. Is this going to be another incident of a dual justice system or not, right? So, okay, once again, 147 members of Congress participated in sedition and a violent overthrow of our government are still sitting there keeping their jobs. So,
Yep.
all right, Andy, let's go on to the next one. Who else we got?
All right. So our next contestant is everybody's favorite little press secretary and operator of the mobile lectern, Mr. Sean Spicer.
I think, oh, he was so my favorite because he went in there guns blazing, figuratively, and
Period.
Yeah, he didn't last very long, but he did, as you point out, that he did. He had issues with the lectern that were hilariously reenacted on Saturday Night Live. So he's spicy. And I gotta admit, I am not up on current events culture stuff. Like, I don't pay attention to the vapid stuff. I did not know that he was on Dancing with the Stars. I just didn't. I didn't. And when I was like, that's not true. Yeah, it's gloriously true. All of it. All of it. And there are pictures everywhere. I literally had to get a tissue because I remember him being with all that vibrato and just, and the dude is tiny. So he had kind of a Napoleon complex apparently at the White House. And to see all of that in full display on Dancing with the Stars, he was fabulous.
And this graphic, answers the question: is that Sean Spicer or John Travolta?
Right, that was my favorite one. No, there was another picture of him in a lime green lame, fluffy frilly shirt. I didn't pick that one. I preferred this one because it was.
Yes, we don't want our viewers to go blind.
That's exactly right. So here's where Schadenfreude kicked in for me because Spicy has a show on Newsmax. Newsmax, if you're not familiar with it, is some right-wing TV trying to compete with Fox News and out batshit crazy Fox News. And they're doing a good job of it. So Spicy has this little show on it, and I'll admit I've never seen it. I would love to be on it though. I would be such a fangirl of Spicy. I would enjoy that. So if somebody wants to forward this on to Sean Spicy, this probably will not get me an invitation, but I'm living for it. Let's do it. So here's what's hilarious about it. He applied through Newsmax to get press credentials. He was trying to get back into that press room and he was going to do the damn thing. And he was all in line to do it. And Newsmax, his own employer, pulled his application back in favor of 2 interns. They're like, nah, we already get 2 applications in for 2 people. Sean, why don't you sit this one out? And to me, that is the ultimate. If you're a journalist and your own employer sets you aside in favor of 2 baby journalists, holy shit, that is you being demoted and you are now irrelevant to your own employer. So, poor Sean.
Do we remember how long Spicy Man actually made it in that job?
It wasn't long. It was like, well,
a few months anyways.
Yeah, it was a few months. It was enough to make a major impact,
And launch a major book deal, probably.
Probably. I just remember what's her face from Saturday Night Live in the mobile podium,
Yes.
driving down Manhattan.
Yes, and yelling at people, yelling at other drivers on the road. Yes, it was some classic television. One thing that I must say is that the Trump administration did somewhat resurrect the TV show SNL, especially a lot of people that ended up playing those people, right? There's always been pushback. And if you're a regular watcher of that show, when you grew up and when you watched it is kind of when you think that that was at its best, right? I, being an older guy, I can remember, the Dan Aykroyds and John Belushi and that era, Chevy Chase, that era, right up through Eddie Murphy and Martin Short, and when they were on there. And of course, that was my favorite time to watch it, right? But that's when I grew up, right? So there was I think there was a lot of pushback that people, look to the olden days about when that show was really great. It's not as good as it is now, but there was so much ammunition from the Trump administration that it almost resurrected that show through the last 4 years.
Absolutely. And the administration itself was kind of a caricature. So it was a slam dunk for a skit comedy like Saturday Night Live, just to take it a little step further. But do you remember the amount of times that we're like, was this Saturday Night Live or did this really happen? Because art and life were, it got really hard. Like I would see a headline and be like, is this The Onion or is this New York Times? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So,
It was a very confusing time, for a lot of people.
Yeah. So there, this is spicy. God, I may actually watch this show now, just out of curiosity. I'm gonna
just
be
to
like,
reminisce.
Well, no, I think I want to be that crazy old lady who's trolling him. Just think of like a hockey game where there's always that fan in the stand who takes it way too far, and just catcalling and all of that sort of thing.
Till he gets a puck in the forehead.
The worst he could do is block me. So, I don't know. I think what I might actually do is like a mystery science theater, whatever it was, 3000, and just watch the show and just be crying laughing. But yeah, okay. So it's a thought. It's a thought for later. So all right, let's go on to the next one. Who else do we have today?
All right.
We're almost done, actually.
Yes, our final contestant for this morning is Spicy 2.0.
Yeah.
Right? Our favorite mean girl in the administration. And of course, we are talking about Sarah Huckabee Sanders, no relation to Bernie.
No, not related to Bernie. She's related to Mike Huckabee. That's his daughter. She gets it honest. So for those who were not aware, and particularly for those of you who are advocates of term limits, the governor of Arkansas is being term limited out. This is Asa Hutchins. And since he cannot run again, you have this field full of potential hopefuls who have put their name in the ring. And among them is Sarah. So Sarah announced her bid and put out this 7-minute long campaign video. And once again, I want to call back to my prior statement about those who claim to be a good Christian and yet will lie like a rug. The majority of her 7-minute video is nothing but bald-faced lies. She starts out with, and this is where I was laughing, she starts out with Trump going to Iraq in Air Force One by himself, and what a heroic figure this was, speaking to the troops, and they expected to have their own generals there who had abandoned them. And I'm like, that is so not true. None of that actually happened. But here she was, she put out in a video, and the graphics are slick. Whoever made this video, kudos to you, because you turned this truly Sausier into a silk purse with that video. It was beautiful. It was slick. For a split second, I was right there with Sarah and, you know, her one single teardrop and her patriotism, all of that. And then I went, wait. None of that actually happened. She is outright lying. She opened her campaign with a lie and went full on QAnon on this one. So if you go to her website, maybe you do, there are 0 issues on there, but in her campaign video, she tells you exactly what she's running on. She's running on the Trump platform, full on grift, lying, and everything that it was. She's full on Q in this one. So anything she tells you is going to be like a giant scavenger hunt game where you got to figure out what she really means in the deep state and draining the swamp and all of that stuff. If I were on her campaign, I would say this is absolutely the wrong way to go. I would have positioned the messaging like, okay, well, we had hope in someone who let us down. I am a true believer in XYZ, whatever. She didn't do that. She went, I am Trump 2.0 in a skirt. So I'm not hopeful for, okay, all right, Mike. Mike just brought up the pronunciation of the state, and I looked it up. Okay, Andy, here's your story. Promise you this story.
All right.
So, Arkansas. All right. Back in the day, and we're going back, way back, 1800s, brand new state. There were 2 ways to pronounce this. There was Arkansas, S-A-W, or Arkansas, like Texarkansas, right? Mm-hmm. And even weighing into this was a Commandant Commander General Pike of Pikes Peak fame. If you drive through Colorado, you're driving right by Pikes Peak. It's a famous mountain in Colorado. So even Pike got into it with, is it Arkansas or Arkansas? And there was this huge to do. And in my head, the way this happened is hilariously funny, but this is literally what happened. So you had in the legislature, people arguing back and forth. They were really upset about how are we going to spell it? How are we going to say it? Apparently they didn't have enough to worry about, right? So here's what they did. In the legislature, they're like, all right, and I don't have an Arkansas accent. And I know that Dan Whitfield, if he sees this, is going to be like, now wait a second. So my apologies, Dan. But so they, in the legislature, they went, all right, here's how we're going to settle it. We're going to call it Arkansas, S-A-W. That's so everybody over here who likes the Arkansas, we're going to call it Arkansas. But for you Arkansas folks, we're going to spell it Arkansas. All right? Everybody good?
Oh, so if they'd gone full Arkansas, they would have put a W on the end.
That's correct. That is correct.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so that was their Solomon's compromise. We're going to say it this way, but we're going to spell it this way. And that is the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever heard. But for me, it was an epiphany, because I have been under the impression that we as a body politic in the United States have just gotten dumber as the years have gone by, ignorant. But that particular story was from 1887. We've always been this way. So I guess that's good news. Yeah.
Nothing to see here, move along type deal.
Right. So that is the story behind how this state got its name and is spelled this way. So
right.
it's
I get it.
Yeah.
So apparently Brett Favre had nothing to do with it.
Well, I mean, it's part and parcel. This is the same state that gave us Tom Cotton, right? Who's been suspiciously quiet since his fascism coup didn't happen. So
you mean Tom Cotta?
Yes, there you go. Well, he's gonna rename everybody now. So So of course Sarah is running in this. And then when I looked at the field of other candidates, I'm like, well, first she doesn't really have a chance in hell. But I'm kind of looking forward to the train wreck. And oh, by the way, the other people who are running are not much better. So, so for those of you who are advocates of term limits rather than actually participating in elections, which are term limits, that's the lazy way out. And here's a prime example of what happens. ASA is not. Look, I don't agree with him on anything, any way, shape, or form, at all, at all. Ideologically, morally, nothing. But look what's coming behind him, and here's what you get. So, yeah, watch that race. Yeah, it's okay. So good luck, Sarah.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So I think that was it, and right on time too, because we are now way past the top of the hour, just a few minutes. Anyway, so
Yeah, well, I think that was well laid out. I hope that we were able to let people know where what everybody was doing now. I'm sure, a lot of people wondered,
mhm.
right?
Yeah, well, and we're going to see more of this since Trump, his last act at like 1 a.m. was to repeal his own executive order prohibiting the revolving doors. So you're going to see much more of this from high cabinet members down to low-level staffers. Like, what's her face? The one with the brunette who ended up with COVID, and she was dating one of these. Can't remember her name.
Oh, and she had the most staying power of any of them.
Yes.
Like she was like a personal advisor. Yeah, I know. I can see her, the long, dark hair, and yeah.
Cannot remember her name, but you're gonna see all of these people get prime cushy jobs in some nefarious kind of agencies, and then they'll be back, right? So this is the swamp. This is the exact swamp that they are refilling with themselves. It's just, the last grifters are diminished, the new ones come in, and then just like with Bill Barr and Chad Wolf. Chad Wolf has been in DC for 20 years, and he served illegally as DHS head, and we saw all of that sort of thing, but he was always around. He served in the Obama administration, he served in the Trump administration, started his career under Bush. They just keep churning to the top. So
well, and it was a very interesting dynamic that most people don't talk about, is that any of the career public servants or politicians or people that were in government for all those years, they had to learn social media, especially if they were an older person that remembers like the Reagan administration or whatever before we had the interweeb, right? They had to at least have a Twitter account so that they could find out from Trump when they got fired.
Well, yeah. What's this? Was it Flynn? No, it was the head of the FBI who found out he got fired while he was on a flight from California back to DC. So,
yes.
Yeah. No, it's been an interesting time, but yeah.
It still is.
Well, true story, because I didn't find out about Biden's prison policy from the news media. I found out from Twitter. So I think this is something that we're going to see going forward. It was the official POTUS account that made that announcement, not MSNBC, CBS, Fox, whatever. It was Twitter. So yeah, absolutely.
Of course.
So on that note, just a quick reminder, if you didn't see this amazing show that happened last night here on our network with Brandon Johnson, Daz Leone, Kwame Shakur, and the most honorable Mama Rice, Tamir Rice's mother, it was an amazing, very powerful discussion. And I know that I have a personal bias, not just because I'm part of the network, but because Miss Rice is someone that I deeply respect for turning her personal tragedy, this horror that we all fear as parents, into something of a powerful voice and advocacy. So that happened last night. You can see it on the replay on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, on our website. All of that's there. So I want to make mention of that. And then on Friday, here on our show, we are going to have a full-on comprehensive debate about the technology in censorship, because we see, and I am definitely going to reach out to Josh Hawley. We're going to talk about what it actually means, because we have this whole free speech issue that doesn't necessarily apply to private corporations. And yet, as we just mentioned, the president of the United States is issuing policy on Twitter. So when does it become public utility, and where is this dynamic here? And then pulling in Sherry Weiss's good work on antitrust, all of that goes into it, as well as, do you remember net neutrality? We get to have that conversation again because Ajay Patel is now out. And if you see him, man, if I saw that guy. So yeah, so
we're not advocating violence here. I just want to make that clear.
A strongly worded letter is what I'm inferring. Just strongly worded. But yeah, so all of these pieces that we have discussed over the years now kind of gathered around this issue, and how do we handle it? So we're going to welcome Mike, who's a friend of the show, to give us his opinion from an IT perspective. And then I would really welcome everyone weighing in with their thoughts and opinions, and let's really have a discussion that is more solution based to get through the nuances. You know, if I was queen for a day, how would I do this? If, you know, that's the discussion we want to have, not, you know, a Josh Hawley. So I'm still stuck on
although if he would like to join us.
If he would like to join us. And I would want to ask him, how is it censorship when you wrote an op-ed that was published in the New York Times about you being censored? I don't know anyone else who could do that. But okay, so
stay tuned for Friday.
Right, exactly. So on that note, I am done, and I thank you so much for tuning in. Andy, any parting thoughts?
No, I think we ran the gamut on this one. I thought that was a good show. I hope you enjoyed it. We are back in a couple of days to close out the week on Friday, and I guess we will see you then. Take care, everyone.
We bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah. Spitting the facts, how it's supposed to be. Habit the dog, we keeping it G.